Well, welcome, friends, to another episode here of Shades of Life. It's a beautiful, sunny, almost really hot day here in Minnesota. Yesterday was one of those days that even to go outside for a few minutes was almost impossible. Today, with a nice breeze, it's a little different. So there is all the sort of sense of the wonder of nature you could step into if you choose. Um, as often is the case prior to the Shades of Life conversations, I think each of us in some way start thinking about what we might talk about. Earlier in the day, this morning on a bike ride, I was on what might we talk about? Over lunch, I read a really interesting article on really on the complete misunderstanding by the current administration about the war in Iran and how it's a complete economic transformation. So that's a whole nother world. We're fighting a war with $2 million, $20 million weapons, and the and Iranians are fighting a war with $5,000 drones. So it's an economic change. I was thinking about that. But mostly I'm kind of thinking when people might say to the question, what do you do? Which comes from a Trevor Noah video that I've been sharing out and about as he talks about French people. And you ask them, what do they do? Oh, I go for a walk. I breathe. I read. So one of the things that I do is take care of my flowers. And so, and that's a common kind of answer lately for people. Oh, what's going on? What's happening? Well, I got a lot of flowers taken. My irises are crazy. I've never seen them so full and so beautiful as this year. Just battled the rabbits that eat up my petunias, and so got them saved and going. The peonies I transplanted last year are doing okay. Peonies do not like to be transplanted, so they're doing okay. And everything else. And so I'm even last night in 96-degree weather, I had to go out and water my flowers because if you don't, they're going to be in rough shape. So, what do we do? Here we are, it'd be June 1st on Monday. What in life do we do about now? Take care of flowers? What else? Welcome, friends.
Welcome to another edition of Shades of Life, Shades of Flowers. Kathy, you want to run?
Well, I was thinking, Tennyson, we shouldn't let Jerry go first if he's going to start off with what he started
Well,
off
you
with. I'm
know,
like, I am not talking about that.
this is the ride we go on.
So many places that could go, threads I do not intend to follow or want to follow. So,
Okay,
um,
good. We're going to learn something about you just by how you sort this context now.
this question of what do you do, I think Jerry didn't
Yeah.
mention he was watching a little Trevor Noah
Mm,
video that he shared with us about how we respond to that question,
mm,
probably depending on what country we're living in,
yeah.
because in France, that's where you get to the what do you do? I go for walks, I eat cheese. And more in North America, and maybe other countries too, I just don't know. We respond with, I'm a consultant, I'm an engineer, I'm a whatever. And I think more and more lately, I've been thinking along the lines, especially as we've been working on this grandparenting book around what do I do?
Mm,
Hang out with my grandkids. I take them to the park. I
mm,
cook stuff with them.
yeah.
Uh, and outside of that, I always say I don't have much of a social life because it's all around my kids, my grandkids.
Yeah.
And I love to cook and I love to bake, and food is one of my love languages, I know. So I'm always tending to what I think that the people I cook for will like. And then I read
Mm,
and I write
mm,
and I walk and I do yoga. And I was reading earlier something on LinkedIn where someone had posted about grace. And in the context of as leaders, where and how do we give grace to ourselves, or do we? And I think sometimes in the fast moving pace of the world that we live in, grace can be pretty far from our minds. And I did a reply to the post and mentioning about the fast-paced world. And I think this is where mindfulness helps because it calls us back to the present and it slows us down and it asks us to think about things like grace for self, for others, compassion, love, joy. Where are these things in me and where are these things in the world? And how do I live these things just just even for me, but so I show up differently for other people. It's not about teaching anybody anything or being a role model or whatever. It's just about how do I navigate stress and tension and uncertainty and unknown and chaos in my world around me in a way that I can do the things that I like to do. That's where I'll go with that one.
This is great. Okay. I will pick up from there. So, hi. I like the question, the differentiation or the distinguishing that you've started with, Jerry, and that you've added to. So I'll try a few layers of it. One layer is I have this interest in me that gets really curious. Like, where do these patterns come from?
Mm,
Where or when did we start predominantly responding to the question of what do you do with an occupation? And I don't know where all that starts, but the sort of systemic reality of that feels interesting to me. Creating a culture that is so rooted in productivity or even you're not productive, you're not worthy, or you're not productive, you don't belong. So lots of like reaching philosophical things that are interesting to me. when when I have been asked, what do you do, with the implication of what's your job, boy, have I tripped over that one so many times. I feel like I'm trying to describe something that doesn't fit into the tight little box or the prescribed box. And sometimes, I've been able to come out with things that feel honest and true. Sometimes I feel like I've had to perform that one, like make me something that I'm not, and I sure hate that feeling. So I've learned to say a few things about the occupational part, but I want to make a different connection that is more in the spirit of flowers and grandparenting and some of that, because those are the things that are interesting to me. And in, to some extent, the shared work of circle that we three are engaged in, I often feel like check-ins are just a bunch of that. Like, I
mm,
don't need your business card. It's like, what's moving you in this moment, or lately, or this week. And I love it when people speak those kind of things. So now I'm going to go into that a little bit because what do I do? Well, I go for walks too, and I go for walks with my sweetheart. We live in this neighborhood where we have a couple of favorite places to go and walk, and there's a lake, and there's ducks and coots and geese and excuse me, a few blackbirds. And what do I like to do? I like to feel the connection with my sweetheart.
mm,
I like to feel like my body is moving. We're talking a casual walk here. It's not any kind of speed walk, but just being out, feeling the wind. We're not 96 degrees, Jerry, but we're kind of in the 80s right now, and it's been pretty windy the last couple of days. But I notice, like, when I return from a work event, or Dana returns from a work event, one of the things that we need to do pretty high on the list is go for a walk. Like, that
mm,
somehow re-grounds us. What do I like to do? I like to put up a pegboard tool holder in the garage. And that's what happened last week. where I just got tired of feeling like I'm searching for the damn screwdriver or where are the pliers, and I'm reaching into the bag, a canvas bag that holds a lot of that, and just feeling myself grumpy, like I'm going to hurt my fingers while I reach in this bag. Finally, enough for me to say, okay, that's it. I'm gonna organize the tools and let myself be utterly dorky with organizing the tools. And so up goes the pegboard, up go the little hooks, and boy, am I proud of seeing where the mix of screwdrivers and hammers and things are. I do that, and I feel excited about that. And Dana got all excited about it too. It's like, I can't believe I married this man. We had some of that going on. What do you do? I like the gardening part of it too. We got flowers in the front and mix of petunias do pretty well in our heat. What do I do? I'm also the guy that hacks the sprinkler system because we have like most, and I feel proud of that. We mostly have drip lines that run and pretty drought tolerant plants as we need in our area. But when you throw in a few marigolds and a few petunias, they need a little more water. So, I'm sort of rigging the system to just give them a little bit more water. And the thing I'm super proud of, which really does sound dorky, is we don't really have garden space. We have flower garden space, but we don't really have vegetable garden space. And I just like converted this section of our wood chips and things like that, there's not a lot of space between our house and the neighbor's house, and put in some topsoil and stuck some tomato plants in the ground. And I feel really excited about that. So, when you ask the question, what do you do from that spirit, Trevor Noah, I can feel the excitement in me that says, oh, good, now we're getting somewhere. And I can also feel the part of me that still, like, somewhere in here feels like I have to justify what I do. Like, all of those things are joyful. I do them because they're joyful. Not because they have well, they do have utilitarian value, but it doesn't lead with that. So maybe that's where I start. Okay, Jerry, add to that fire, add to that
All
soup.
right. All right.
Let's see what you got.
Well, yeah, cycle back a little bit to the grandparent thing because it was something that
Cool.
was a little bit on my mind today too. So the other, so I've started to spend. I have four grandchildren, and two of them are younger, 8 and 10 at the moment, or 9 and going to be 11 anyway. And so they're in that age where they're really competitive with each other and who can win the card game more times. And so the older grandkids, 18-year-old and 15-year-old, they're in a different universe than the younger ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of fun to take the two younger ones, Miles and Ellie, and just spend time with them alone
Mm-hmm.
because the competitive goes away. It's just you and her or him, and you're chatting away. And so the conversation I had the other day is with Miles was, well, what do you think about time?
Oh, Grandpa.
And is there a difference between grandparents' time and kids' time?
Whoa. Fun.
And so we had kind of quite a little conversation about, you know, I think grandparents' time is just things have slowed down. I don't need to be in a hurry to do anything.
Yeah.
And like you were just saying, when I go for a walk, I'm not in a hurry to in that walk anymore. Yes, it's for exercise, but it's not a speed walk. It's a like observing what's going on around me walk
Mm-hmm.
and what's changed from the last time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Miles' time is like, what's the next thing that's going to happen now? It's not, I don't want to say it's a speeded up time because I don't want to be unfair about saying there's lack of attention to things or lack of focus or anything because he can be very focused, so can Ellie. But their sense of it is different, I think, in the surroundings piece. So time is kind of interesting to me. And what do? I do grandparents' time now.
Yeah.
Now, if I mean, I might be sitting on the porch and I need to go refill my glass or get some water or whatever. it might be 5 minutes just sitting there thinking about it before actually going to go do it. It's
Thinking
like,
about refilling my glass.
because I'm looking at the flowers. And the other day, a cardinal landed in the yard. That's a first. That was fantastic. So that's one just little thought. And then the, the other day I read, I can't remember the right language of it, so I'm not going to say it correctly. And I welcome either of you adding in, but it was just a little short piece about hospitality. And it brings me back to our sort of art of hosting lives and worlds. And we talk about hosting as, and is the root of hospitality. And the comment that was made was sort of the difference between doing hospitality or delivering hospitality and being hospitality.
Mm,
That it's just the energy of who I am has hospitality within it wherever one goes. And I got to thinking, and I don't know that this is true, but it was a question that I asked myself is sometimes during art of hosting trainings, do I
mhm,
focus more on the technique of hospitality, the delivering of it, the processes of it, than the being of it? And so, what do I do? Well, I want to do hospitality in that full energetic sense. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes not so much. So, there.
You want to be hospitality, not do hospitality.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, you have both reminded me of my dad, in different
there we go.
ways.
Cool.
My dad used to say, days are long and weeks are short.
Yeah.
And I sure as heck feel that. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, whoa, wait, how is this already Thursday? Wasn't it just the weekend?
Yeah.
So I definitely feel that. And not even so much that days are long, but
Yeah.
time does move fast. Doesn't mean I can't slow down and be present in it, but holy, it the days are flying by. Um, and Tennyson, when you talk about pegboard and getting things ready for tools, well, if you'd have seen my father's workshops, both his mechanical and his diesel engine machine repair shop and his woodworking shop. His diesel engine repair shop was in the garage, and you probably couldn't see a speck of wall. I have pictures from that time, but everything was up there in its place. Multiple sets of pliers and wrenches and all of that. It was a sight to be seen, and he knew where everything was. It was really interesting. And when I think about what gives me joy right now, one of the things that I have been doing is giving things away. So there's a Buy Nothing group here. There's Buy Nothing groups all over the place, but so there's one for Bedford. And a while ago, I looked at the bookshelves, the books on my bookshelves, and went, they're good books, and I'm never going to read them again. And it doesn't seem like anybody in my family really is that interested in these particular books. So I started posting them up on the Buy Nothing group, and different people opt for different things, and that was really cool. And this weekend, so I have a at my dad's house there was this pole lamp. I actually have one here at my house too, but and it has a glass shade at the top. And when I went to bring it home from his house, I broke the pole, the lamp pole. So I had the shade, and it's one of these upside down ones. I had it sitting in a closet for 6 years and with no practical use for it. So I put it out on the Buy Nothing group thinking nobody is going to want this. It's such a random thing.
Mhm.
And this woman said, I'd like to have that. And so I delivered it to her, and she took a picture of the lampshade on the pole, and she told me that her she had broken her glass lampshade and had some kind of temporary thing in there, but like this really, really meant a lot to her. And I told her the story about it coming from my dad's house. And so all of a sudden, in this small community where I live, I'm making connections with people on these totally random items.
Hmm.
Timing was right, I guess, for the lampshade, but like that anybody would actually, first of all, even know what it is, let
Mm.
alone want it, and then be able to use it and then share that. She didn't just share the story with me, she put the picture of it out on the Buy Nothing group. And one of the things that I've been appreciating with the Buy Nothing group, because there's a number of things that I have from my parents' house that has been sitting here for a while, and with some distance, it's like, okay, it's time to move some of these things out. I had unopened John Wayne DVDs that
Wow.
I had given my dad because to try to give him something to interest himself
Yeah.
other than TV, and he could never really figure out how to use his DVD player, which my brother and I kind of chuckle at since he was a whiz at anything mechanical or figure it out for a boat, and he was on top of it. But I get to share these things and then these stories with people, so it's not just hey, come and pick up a book or hey, come and pick up a whatever. It's like there's meaning in these things to me,
Mhm.
and now they're going somewhere where someone is going to get some value out of it. So joy in all the strangest places.
Joy in the strangest places. Okay. Are you complete or are you still
I
going
am.
there? Okay. I'll pick up and weave a little too. Um, there is something really deep in the roots to me of what we're talking about. So, in all the ways that I can't not seem to inquire and sometimes fret over what it means to be the human being that I am, I know that there's some deep learning there that does, I think, come with age also, or a phase of life, maybe stage of life. So I find myself really trying to surrender a lot. Like, why do I need to justify joy? Or why do I feel like I need to rush so much on this, that, or the other thing? I love crispness. I love, there are contexts where it's like the house is on fire, get the damn hose, don't ask questions, go. I know that that's there, but I think we're weaving something really deep. And I know you two have heard me speak some of this. I feel like I'm really trying to lean into this, and I'm sort of discovering like some, old holes in the sweaters and the jeans that have, cloaked me. A couple other things, and I am going to tie it back into some work stuff. So, what do you do? Well, I'm going to tie it back into work for a little bit because, in a delightful surprise way. So, one of the gigs I got to do a month ish ago, corporate group, 24 ish leaders, 3 days together. And the overarching tone in that group definitely included I'm way too busy for this. It's really hard for me to get away. Uh, Struggling physically to put the phone down. Now, we had a great gathering, let me just say that. But we also did some like feedback or reflections at the end of each day, and that included something like, "What did you most appreciate about the day?" Or where did you feel most effective? And I'm looking for what I want to see. That's true. And also objectively, there's quite a pattern there. People appreciate the invitation, the permission to just tell stories. I
Mhm.
never knew you were a gardener. I never knew you liked to walk. I never knew you were a pegboard guy. People love that. And in that context of like having 3 days together, because, me and my colleague, we're not just creating 3 days of let's just gab. We're pivoting with that. What you love, what you care about, into what you love and care about in your job, in your role. And I find people are so appreciative of all of that. I think I'm saying it here because it's sort of like a repeat aha. The part of me that in a gathering like that feels like, boy, I better bring the really serious stuff, is relieved because I get serious about the relational stuff. I'm relieved to feel their delight or their appreciation, their thankfulness, their gratitude for, gosh, just sharing our stories. That was a good thing. Um, there's a theme that is pretty strong in me that uh, has really come out of art of hosting work, and in particular relationship with Toka. Because lots of people say this, but he's the one that I sort of attach my heart to, in that what we practice, we become.
Mm.
And I find myself saying that line a lot. Like, what we practice, when we practice curiosity, we become curiosity. When we practice gardening, we become the garden itself. Like,
Mm.
there's some fun philosophical, you know, attachment to all of those things. Um, Let me say one other thing, because I was in a, okay, so another like potential client gig is what it is. Uh, Working with pastors, and there's a particular pastor that's called me back and said, "Hey, in our region, we're considering a blah blah blah. Could you help us, or would you be able to help us?" And I had one of those early exploration calls with him and then his conference minister. So that's kind of the highest authority in that region, and another staff person that were there. And we had such an, like, it felt generative call that was really touching on the, now, what are you hoping for? And why do you think you're hoping for it? And there was this interesting moment because they know, and they can sort of get the pretty quick vibe. Tennyson comes in and does some relational things. And then this common worry shows up. What if it's not substantial enough?
Mm.
And the conference minister even asked that. Like, I think she was thinking really openly. Well, I think what I hear people saying is we need substance. Well, I use that as an opportunity. Hey, that's cool. What do you mean by substance?
Yeah,
And
good question.
eventually, you know, in that conversation, it wasn't too hard to get to with these people, by the way. But they just landed on, oh yeah, like relationships are of substance. Learning together is of substance. Being inspired by one another's of stories connected to church or not is of substance. It was so fun to do all of that. So I don't know how to weave it back, but I feel like something in what we've started here is really touching some really yearn for and long for things. And then people like us, the three of us and others, we come along and we're able to offer some format that holds people in that. You know, that's a level of what I do, but maybe it's coming from the what I do behind the thing that looks like what I do. Ooh, I think that's enough. I better stop there.
Whoa.
Whoa.
One of my, I love the story piece for a moment because one of my favorite little things that happened during an art of hosting, and it was an early one at the University of Minnesota, and there are about 40 people, and about a third of them or so are from the School of Architecture,
Yeah.
and elsewhere, and one of the 30 was the dean. And so he was a person of some influence in the room. And we're doing the check-in and putting our little stuff in the middle.
Our little stuff.
And he puts this pair of scuffed, worn shoes
Huh?
in the center, the dean of the School of Architecture,
Yeah.
and then explains that he's a competitive tango dancer and travels the world to do competitive tango dancing. And the whole room went like,
We did
holy
not know
shit,
that about you. Yeah.
no idea.
Right.
Yeah. And the beauty is how much more human one becomes
Mhm.
in sharing these stories that about ourselves that maybe they're intimate, maybe they're private, maybe not, but they're and the dean and I, because I have a liking for tango music, started sharing CDs back and forth of
Of
tango,
course you did.
you know. But so the story piece I love here.
Yeah.
And a couple of memories really pop strong in the stories that the two of you told that goes back to the pegboard thing.
Mm.
So my grandpa Nagel had a wood shop in his garage, and he was very organized with the pegboard and the workbench and absolutely everything in its place, like Kathy said. My dad had a wood workshop in his house in the basement with pegboard and workbench and everything exactly in its place. So of course I did the same thing. And I have pegboard in my garage and I got storage cabinets with things in the right spots and so on. My grandpa Gordon
Mm.
had a bench in the garage
Mm.
that was the garage's length and it was chaos.
Mm.
There wasn't any pegboard. There were just tools scattered here and there. And what emerged for me was that was as a kid when I visited, his garage was the adventure. Just like walking up and down that bench and seeing these things and discovering them because they weren't there, they weren't organized. But where, there were places on the farm where things were very organized. So it wasn't like everything was chaos. It's this yin and this yang between what matters in organization and what just didn't require that kind of attention, and part of the organization certainly was around farm equipment and how it was cared for and so on. So one of the things I have on my workbench is an old coffee can
Hmm.
that is full to the brim of junk, full to the brim.
Screws, nails, bolts,
You
nuts.
absolutely
Yeah.
everything. And when I can't find something that works for what I need, the right washer, the right screw, the right bolt, I can go to that coffee can and I can tip it out
Yeah.
and poke around till I find it.
Yeah.
That coffee can came from my dad,
Yeah.
and he got it from my grandpa. So there's that chaos again of this coffee can full of whatever.
Folgers, Nescafe.
Right?
What
Yeah,
is the
right,
coffee can?
right. It's
What
a
is
red
it?
one.
Seriously. Oh, there we go.
There you go. So I'm pretty sure it's Folgers. It's a red one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, I think that we tell a story about pegboards, and I have a memory of this other thing that pops.
Yeah.
My grandfather Gordon's garage and workshop. I have a memory of my dad or my grandpa Nagel's organizing, and yet this can shows up in that memory of
Yeah.
stuff. And so I like how stories kind of create that opportunity to be a little bit more about who we are in these varying aspects, from order and structure to chaos, and we can coexist in those two spaces. We don't have to choose. We can we can coexist in those spaces. We can be the orderly dean of architecture and a competitive tango dancer, and we can coexist in different spaces. Although tango dancing is very precise.
Right.
And just to close, the thing about competitive tango dancing is you dance with someone you've never danced with before.
Uh,
And so you have to be able to communicate with the hands and the body and everything, you know, to dance to some music that you don't know which one it's going to be, and you perform, and so that precision becomes important out of the chaos of the moment of, I don't know this person, I don't know what song I'm going to do, what's going to happen here. Here we go. Yeah, so we can do order and we can do chaos.
nice.
You do order, I do chaos. I'm your Grandpa Nagel. That would be that's
Grandpa Nagel, wait, Grandpa Gordon, right? Had the
Grandpa
Gordon
missing.
Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with tools laying all over the place. Yeah, that
that's
would be.
true.
Yeah. Um, Thinking about work and substance, Tennyson, based on what you were saying, this morning I posted on LinkedIn about workplace culture, since that Jerry and I are focused there a lot these days. And I had said, with so many demands on resources and the degree of uncertainty that exists in the economy these days, where every dollar matters, what is the value in using some of those resources to invest in a healthy workplace culture?
Yeah.
And it kind of went on from there. But one of my colleagues wrote on it, he said, culture isn't a soft investment. It's one of the only ones that pays you back on every line of the budget. And he said, companies that treat culture as a luxury during tough times are usually the ones spending the most on recruiting, managing the most conflict, and losing the people they can least afford to lose. And that made me think about what we're talking about with check-ins and being hospitality and all of that, that there is a substance to that, which creates the threads that connect people together in a way that makes where they are and what they're doing more meaningful to them. And I think that that gets lost in this question about what do you do that get answered with I'm a whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was really thinking about substance is not necessarily the productivity,
Mhm.
but it's the ingredient, one of the ingredients that goes into whether or not I'm even interested or motivated to
Mhm.
want to deliver on results. And it's too often not valued
Mhm.
or appreciated for
Mhm.
the investment that it is and the return that it delivers.
Whoa, that is a good line right there. Go back and clip that one out.
All right, I
I mean,
will.
clip it, highlight it is what I mean. Okay, cool. Can I pick up from there?
Yes, please.
Oodles of juicy stuff. One is in the spirit of everything I needed to learn about blank, I learned from tango dancing. You know, like there's that line, right? And I think that is more true than it is false, right? There's oodles of
Yeah.
stuff there. And then the second one, like that little line that you just spoke, Kathy, culture. You know, the T-shirt maker in me or the pithy statement maker in me says, culture that celebrates culture for every line in the budget. You know, not just some. Like that's really good, right? Um, I think that we do some pretty. Uh, at the same time, it feels utterly simple and it feels like next level. Because when I think of the many circumstances that we could yarn on about forever amongst just the three of us, as a facilitator, as a facilitator, as a group guy, as a person doing that stuff, when I have them talk about what they love, the love of the
Mhm.
dance, the love of bring an object that represents something that you care about. When we animate, I think this is what's happening. When we animate that kind of love or appreciation or thoughtful consideration or care in the room about those seemingly unrelated things,
Mhm.
and then dare to ask or invoke it with the people, and what's that got to do with what we're up to here? That is like the magic bridge, you know? Just like that ski boot of my grandpa's. I want to take on this hill, you know? I had one guy bring a ski boot one time like that. I think like that is that is one of the things that's juicy that people get nervous when we take them in those directions.
Mhm.
And yet it's just actually shortcutting them to what do you really care about here? Let's get to it. That's juicy stuff to me.
I just, sorry, Jerry. We, when we were with the students last year at Ager University in Brittany,
Mhm.
when we did the World Cafe, we brought the two classes together. We actually, the first question that we asked them was about what in life are they passionate about? And then the second question, I think it was the second question we asked them, so what's this got to do with leadership?
Totally, right? Mm.
A, a thought about check-ins has zoomed through me here.
Okay.
You know, when we're talking about hospitality
Yeah.
and substance and when we talk about check-ins in art of hosting and we try to bring it into a little bit of a practical world so it helps you transition from the meeting you just left. It helps you,
Yeah.
bring yourself fully present and back.
Mhm.
But maybe what a check-in really does is shorten the distance between us.
Yeah.
That in that little story that we tell in that moment, the shortest distance between two people is a story. It's even that's what it really does,
Mhm.
is it shortens the distance between us. Yes, we let go of the previous meeting and we're more present and we can say what's on our mind in a way, but I think it's that shortening of distance that becomes really important. Um,
And maybe Jerry like
yeah.
helps us, yes, for the moment of shortening that distance, and I like that line and I use it, but also it's like helping us to remember that a short distance is even possible.
Hmm.
Strangers
Right.
in the room, like this isn't a far-fetched thing. We can do
Yeah.
this right here. I think when we light up that imagination, it's like, oh, there's a take home for you. We're not as far apart as we thought.
Right. Because how many times have we watched that first circle check-in bring deep emotion,
Move the
and
room.
from
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
people. I never thought I was going to say this, but
Yeah. Right.
kind of thing.
That's good.
Building on just that and what Kathy mentioned about the students, oftentimes we used to get them in January or February, and now they really want us to be with the students in October. So they're
Mhm.
very early in their time together.
Oh, cool.
Because one of the things that became pretty clear was after 4 days with us, the distance between them shortened.
Yeah.
Like they had never socialized. They go to their country. They're from one country. The Vietnamese go one. They go different places. And the benefit of that socializing started to become visible.
Right.
And so they said, well, let's do this earlier in their time together so that those relationships can be built so that we can shorten that distance because one of the things that happens is they begin to discover
Yeah.
that they have a lot of things in common that they never thought they had in common, whether it's the value of family
Yeah.
or some a travel experience that was a little unsettling or learning experience or whatever it might be. There's this foundation of something
Beautiful.
that can be shared amongst themselves in different ways and in different stories.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's being hospitality is shortening the distance.
That's good.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of coming up to some of the end of my thinking here, but I think one of the things that is going to stick with me is this notion of substance and how we create
Yeah.
substance and how integral that is to how we build relationships and
Hmm.
then how we get work done in organizations or how we build connection even within our families across with our sweethearts or across distance or when we hang out together or whatever that case may be. And the idea that,
Mm.
or not the idea, the practice that too many organizations or teams have gotten into of we have all this work to do and we need to get right to it and skip past the building the substance
Yeah. Right.
only to run into problems further down the road because people aren't on the same page or they don't understand what someone is communicating or that they prefer pegboards to benches or whatever the case may be. And I like that we live in a world, us three, in the work that we do and the things that we do, of really inviting substance, inviting us to show up fully as human beings. Because that's when Jerry's talking about shortening the distance between us.
Yeah.
It makes us more human,
Yeah.
right? And then what you said, Tennyson, about it's a reminder that this can happen so fast. It can happen in a blink. I mean, I created relationship with that woman
Yeah.
who took the lamp off of my hands and embraced it in her place.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it in the shopping when we're grocery shopping, walking down the street and saying hello to people. We don't have to be isolated. We don't have to shrink in isolation or loneliness or fear. We can create this. We can invite it in lots of different ways.
I'm going to ring a bell again. That's another clip you ought to pull out of this.
All right.
You're speaking. Drop that mic. I know we're checking out here, and I also just wanted to hear, like, while we're still recording, where are you at with your great grandparenting book? Can you offer an update?
So we have sent the book off to, we're probably going to, we're going to be working probably with a publishing company in Canada
Mhm.
that they support authors and give us all the recommendations and whatnot. So we sent the book off for an evaluation.
Ah,
It's
okay.
going to come back to us with either what you wrote is a bunch of crap,
Yeah.
or more likely, uh, this is really, really good. And here's some places that you could fine tune it a little bit to get it ready for publishing
Yeah.
based on like what we said we want it for feedback.
Yeah.
We're building a Facebook group and an Instagram page
Ah,
to get
cool.
an audience going because it is our intent to do
Yeah.
a crowdfunding, probably Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We're inviting recipes from people, which are either recipes that your grandparents made for you that you loved, or they're recipes that you make for your grandkids that your grandkids love. Because as part of a crowdfunding campaign, we want to um, offer this grand recipe keepsake.
Awesome. Yeah,
Um,
I sent in my mom's and grandmother's caramel
yeah,
icing recipe,
yeah,
and which
Yeah.
love
is
it.
up on the wall. I'm looking at it over here because my
Oh, cool.
daughter had it printed out in her handwriting and ceramically made, It's
Oh,
pretty
nice.
cool.
Can you send a picture?
Yeah, I'll send you a picture.
Cool.
Well, thank you, and yay for the update. Just by way of checking out here, it feels great to convene this way. Like, I love the thinking and the feeling that we get to do, and just starting with the question, Jerry, that you brought in of
Mhm.
what do you do, and then just follow the nuancing of all of that. I think it's really rich, and I feel very, enriched by our conversation, something like that. Thanks for today.
Yeah, my last thing to kind of say is one of the things we've mentioned a few times in some of our work is the check-in question we once asked about where do you live? And that it kind of evolved to where are you from? And those answers take people in very different kinds of directions. And so it's just kind of the little joy of this little question. Well, what do you do? Or how do you live? Well, I breathe. I mean, um, what fun these little simple questions can be and where people wander with them.
Yeah. And I just, no matter where we start, it always deepens.
Yeah.
And there's always something of substance in these conversations. So grateful for Shades of Life.
Yeah. And thanks for hanging in, Kathy, in a cold way. Okay, cool.